Hi folks, I'm Bob Sunday from Talus Stove. Thanks for coming by today and watching the video. In an earlier video when we did a brownie, I was talking about the baking system that I use, and I talked about the pan that I used inside the outside pan, basically the baking pan. And I decided we'll do this video and kind of give you an idea how those pans are constructed. So we're going to go from there. What I was doing here when you started was that I was laying out the pleats to create the basket, which is later becomes the pan. This started out as an inexpensive pizza pan. You can get them in grocery stores, just about anywhere. Right now I buy the pizza pans. The one thing that this company is a company that uses totally recycled aluminum, which is a big part of what I'm doing. I try to use as much recycled material. Even if it's a new piece, it's still that kind of striving for looking for materials that ecologically have been dealt with in a better way than a lot of things in the world today. So I'm going to use this pan. I take this pan, I cut the rim off, which gives me a piece of stock like this. I take that piece of stock, because it has a textured surface to it right now, I take that piece and I lay it out. I take a pizza roller, and very quickly you still got a textured piece of aluminum, but you got a piece that's pretty flat. Easier to work with. I take that piece and I put it on this die board, and I use a layout tool which centers on the in the center of the disc. I take a small scribe. I scribe around that circle to start with. On this tool I have layout marks that coordinate with the pleats in the piece. And I'll go around and I will mark all those. Now this tool only marks the flat part of this pleat. It does not mark the bent piece, the triangle that's in between the flats. What happens after you've laid out the triangles is you just take a flat stick and you place it point to point, and you scribe the center mark for this bend in the pleat. After you've done to that point, you have that, you remove that from the die board. Take something you find in almost any house today, a mouse pad. I take that mouse pad, and let me talk about this. When you go to fold a pan, the triangle needs to fold out, and the flats need to end up on the inside. That way you end up with a really clean inside. They're straight vertical pleats. Just remember, what piece faces the outside, like this little in the middle of the triangle, okay, it gets shaped to the outside. I take the marks that we have here. This center line in this triangle has to go out when you make the pan. When you go to do the final folding, it needs to go out. So we will press it with the inside of the bowl or pan facing us. You can lay it on a soft surface like the mouse pad. I'm using an architect scale because it has a nice sharp edge, and you can lay it right on the mark and you give it a little push into the pad. It makes the fold deeper. So what I'll do is I'll go around a number of times and make these little pleats deeper. On the inside ones, as I said, you're going out. the outside lines on it have to be done from the back side. So you kind of want to work at it a little bit at a time, because as you see, as you start to crimp this aluminum, it'll start to come in and start to make the pan shape. So after I've done these, those are the 3 that I just did a minute ago, I'll take this and lay it down, usually on the edge of the table, because it's starting to bend. And I will do the same thing on both sides of the flat. The pan I'm making here right now is set up to be used with a grease pot. So then things start to even get deeper. From that point, you start to shape it. You can shape it by just taking and going around and start to push the points of the triangle together. You just do it real slow and you work your way around and it starts to take shape. And after you get it up, you'll have something that looks like this. This is the way I ship them. And the reason I ship them open like this is because you can stack them inside each other. Instead of having to, if this is a complete basket like this, and I have to send you 5 of them, well, then they're taking up a lot of space in a box. If I take them and leave them open like this, you can set them inside. When you get them, they're folded to the point where it's fairly easy to just take and push together. Now once you have it pushed all together, and as you see already it's starting to get tighter and tighter and become a more vertical walled pan. Here's one that's been completely folded. What I do with this is, after I'm done getting it to the point where here, I have a little form here that I made from a plumbing fitting that just seemed to work, and I just set it over that. And I start to work the pleats down. A little bit at a time by taking my fingernails and following down the side and making that crease on the triangles tighter. And as you can see now, look, these are still open through here, these are tight. You just keep going around and around until you've got it to exactly the way you want it to be. After you've done that, you're going to end up with a whole series of these triangles that are going to be folded out just like that. And it's going to be fairly tight to the form. If you don't have a 4-inch plumbing fitting, go to the kitchen. If you like peanut butter like I do, a 1-pound peanut butter jar works absolutely perfectly for the grease pot. It'll shape this and it'll fit very nicely. After you've gotten it to where you're pulling these down, we'll go through and we'll just take this one to completion. Now when I sell a cooking system that has a pan in it, you'll get that system with one pan already made and ready to go. It'll actually ship inside the grease pot, and I will just have it set up for you so that it's ready to cook when it comes out of the box. But if I'm making one for someone that already has a grease pot and they just want the baking pans, then I'll send them to you in that open way, and then you can do the final closing and trimming depending on what size ring you lift the pan with inside the grease pot. So now I've got this pretty tight. Look at that. It's very tight against the form. Now I'll just take it and start folding those triangles towards me. Just taking my fingers and rubbing up and down. And just walk around it. They're not going to go perfectly flat the first time, but we'll talk about what you do after I get these folded over. Alright, now we've pushed all the pleats over to one side. If you just take your hands and you work the aluminum down, again, you'll get this so that it's fairly tight and smooth. And this one I got good and tight. Doesn't even want to come off. But the beauty of it is, guess what? Same thing with the baking. You pull a couple pleats out and just pull them, things loosen up and you can get it off. And you can just come and fold those pleats back down, and there's a rough pot. Now with my cooking system, as I said in the video, I think when we did the brownie, I use a lift ring inside my pot to keep the pan itself off the bottom. Keeps it from burning. What I will do is when I send them to you, you'll notice they come a lot taller. They're a lot taller than the pan would be. This is the way it'll come to you. If I'm going to cut the pan down, and I know you tell me you're using a grease pot, or I'm making you one for a grease pot that I'm selling you, then I will take it and I will find a Sharpie and I'll set this in with a ring and I'll mark it. I end up with something that looks like this. What I do then is I take a pair of scissors, and I cut just below that Sharpie line. Because I had put in the pot on the ring, the line is above the pan. Now we have a nice little pan, fits down in there, comes flush with the edge. I know a lot of people have had a hard time with the process of trying to pull a pan like this out when it's hot. To deal with that situation, you will get, along with your pot, little bent handles, just folded from scrap aluminum. You take that and you slide it into one of the pleats. You slide it into one of the pleats, get it to where you like it. Take small swing line stapler, just reach in there, and staple the handle on up near the top. It's out of the way. It's the staples, before that staple would ever rust, because some people say, well, the staples are rust. Well, before that staple will ever rust, you're going to wear this pan out and be using another one. So I don't really see it as any kind of problem. So you go around 180 degrees to where you were before, and you slide it over, stick it in there, staple it. I think one staple works fine. If you want to put two, you can put two. Now you got a handle that after you're done, you can reach and pick it up. And then you say, well, they're in the way. I can't put the top on the pan. I have one actually here. It wouldn't fit. Well, after you've poured your baking mixture in, brownies, biscuits, blueberry muffins, whatever you're making, all you have to do is just fold that little tab in. Fold it down. And there you go. Your pan is in the baking oven and it's ready to go. You get done, you just reach in, pick it up, pop it out, set it down in your cozy. Just like that. To finish cooking, doing whatever. You can either put it just in the pan in the cozy, or you can also drop the whole pan in and do it that way. Either way, if you've got, I carry a couple of these when I go. I don't carry just one of them, so I just drop the pan in. But if you only have one pan that you're carrying and you want to cook something else right away, then hey, just reach in there, take your baking pan out, set it down in the cozy, and you're ready to go, and you got your pot back, and you can cook something else. When you're making your biscuits and gravy, your biscuit's in there finishing its cooking, and you're making gravy in the pan. We're going to do one more layout of a pan, just to be so everybody's real clear with what happens when you lay the pan out. I start off by centering my layout tool pretty much on the disc. You're close enough because you're going to trim the top of the pan later. Take my scribe, and I start off by scribing the outside of this circle, which is a little bit smaller than the diameter of the pan. A lot of folks I've heard have said that they feel they get burning in the pans when they have the pan too tight to the outside. I have to be real honest, I have not had that situation. But I try to work with everybody and make things the way everybody wants. So right now I'm probably sizing the pans down so there's maybe 1/8 of an inch or more of looseness when it goes into the pan, so it isn't touching the outside of the pan. With my system where I use steam and dry heat, it does give it more room for the steam to go up. But I'll tell you what, you'll never get that pan tight enough in there that the steam's not going to come up from the bottom and come up along the side of the pan. Steam make a lot of pressure, it'll go up. So I've marked the disc in the center, as you can see. I'll place my layout disc back, and I will put my little trammel here, and I have marks like that. I hold that down, I take this Purple Heart scribing tool, and I scribe the flats. What we're doing is scribing only the flat sections that you see on the inside of the pot when it goes together. There's 16. I use a layout of 16 for these pots. You could do 20 if you wanted something finer. I really don't think you need it for what we're doing. 16 pretty much gives you a nice layout. Now we're going to cut away for a few minutes, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to mark all the triangles, and then I'm going to take you through marking the triangles themselves, because they have to have a center line. That's the center line that creates the pleat in the triangle. So we'll return in just a little bit. Thanks. We have the layout done. What we end up with, these are our flats that create the inside of the pan. These are our triangles, which are actually the pleats. Now we need a center line down every one of those pleats. That's where it folds. That's your point right here, where it folds to the outside. To do that, all you have to do is take a straight edge, lay it across two of the triangles at their smaller points, scribe to the circle. Now you got your center. You have your center of the pleat, and you just work your way around. Doesn't take long, as long as you get those two that are right across from each other, and you mark it. And if someone's real interested in making these for themselves, I'm just using a piece of cardboard from a cereal box underneath this. It's just soft enough to give me a mark, but not so soft that I cut. Because even with this wooden scribe in this aluminum, which is probably about 35 gauge, you can cut right through the aluminum if the edge is too sharp. I have a little wooden tool here that I made from a piece of Purple Heart that was an old chair part, and you know, I know everybody has those laying around. But also what works really well is an old ballpoint pen, a dry ballpoint pen. That little roller ball will go right in there. You can follow your straight edge or your pattern, and you can create the fold lines. So once we've worked our way all the way around, we'll end up with each one of our center pleats marked. And they don't have to be exact. When you fold this up, one's going to be a little to one side, whatever. It'll all work. Don't worry about it. That's more accuracy than you probably even need. I think that's about it. Again, if there's any questions that you have, you can always send me an email and I'll answer your questions. I think that's about it as far as explaining how I make these pans. There'll be more information on the website soon about the pans. Thank you very much for watching the video.